Welcome to Truth UnCompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by sourcevibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
You have entered into a dimension of truth, where time does not exist and illusions are shattered. The journey of truth is intense. The journey of truth will set you free. Consider this a warning as you enter the dimension of truth uncompromised. All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight is Thursday, July 11th. We're happy to be back. We have a great show planned for you tonight. We are in the Lands of the Giants, our series, part 11. So we will pick up where we left off. The source of material that we're using is a book that was written in 1865 called The Giant Cities of Bashan. It is regarding a gentleman who was commissioned to do a trip out in what they're calling today as the Middle East and Africa to retrace some of the cities, the ancient cities in the biblical world. And during that journey, he also uncovered a lot of the battles that were documented in the Bible between the Israelites and the giants. And as well, he uncovered the giants or titans structures, their homes, and even some of their grave sites. So I am very happy to be back. I see my co-host, Brother Sean, in the queue. I'm going to bring him on, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Here we go. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Wholeness and power, since I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Good to hear your voice.
Likewise, likewise.
All right, all right. Good deal, good deal. Sis Sandra hasn't made it in yet, so she'll be in when she get in. Okay, all right. So before I get started, because literally right before I jumped on the air, I had to pull out. I saw folks there posting an article, but before I go into my stuff, do you have any go ahead on with the fuckery, Brother Sean?
Yeah, this whole Epstein thing, and all the names that's coming out, but everybody's still hating Trump for some reason. I mean, from what's being revealed, everybody's favorites, they're Democrats, their beloved Democrats are trafficking children. But all they can concentrate on is hating Trump. Now, what's more important, children or hating Trump?
Right, or an agenda, right.
I mean, they're blinded by hate.
Agreed.
But all this evidence is coming out about these people that they love, including Barack and Michelle Obama. I mean, this thing is about to touch Hollywood,
a lot of people,
NBA, NFL. A lot of people, heroes, are about to be completely and utterly destroyed.
Right.
And you know what's going to come out of all this? More hatred for Trump. Not the people that lied to him, not the people that's behind all these children that's coming up missing, and all this human trafficking. Ohio happens to be one of their main focal points. I'm from Ohio. Y'all taking people y'all taking my people. I mean, of course we all got people everywhere, but you know, bottom line is they stealing our children, and all our people can focus on is hating Trump.
Yep.
That's just some fuckery for you to me.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's why, you know, to me, I always make this statement about, you know, cleaning up and sweeping around your own doorstep, because people don't want to look at the real issues that's really going on. It's easier to represent their damn gang. So whether that be a religious gang, some organizational gang, political gang, and I'm saying gang, G-A-G, instead of doing their inner work within and making sure that their particular family is not impacted and cleaning up around their own doorsteps. And that is the main reason why, as melanated people, the families are in the conditions that they are in, because, you know, everybody's focusing on idolizing other folks or, representing their gang, their religious gang, political gang, or regular organization gang, or their celebrity gang, instead of knowing thyself, making sure your bloodline is together. Because if everyone did that, then there would be no concept of others taking advantage and molesting and abusing children. This shit has been allowed to go on, just like, the abuse of women and children, period. It has been allowed to go on. And everybody that's sitting back participating in it, you're going to pay a price for it. That's just the bottom line. You're going to pay a price for it. This is cleanup time across the board. So, you can keep burying your head in the sand. That's your motherfucking choice. But there's consequences for those choices as well. So, very, very excellent point, Brother Sean. Now, right before we jumped on the air, I'm not even sure if you had a chance to see it, Brother Sean, but there are articles floating around now. Mainstream media then picked it up because the cargo ship was stopped. And the cargo ship is owned by J.P. Morgan Chase with 20 tons of cocaine.
Ooh-wee.
Yes, literally, this just broke, you all, about an hour ago. So I'm reading off of CNN, but it at this point, you can go to any one of the main sites, and it's there. So it says, New York, CNN Business, U.S. authorities in Philadelphia seized a cargo vessel in June. So now we just motherfucking hearing about it in June, but okay, I mean July, but I'm going to go ahead and keep going. In June with nearly 20 tons of cocaine on board. And I'm just going to go on and say it was probably more than the 20 tons, y'all. But anyhow, you know what I'm saying?
It's probably like about 50, 60.
Exactly. They're going to sit a little few aside, put that back out on the Struzny. But anyhow, the ship, as it turns out, is owned by a fund run by banking giant J.P. Morgan Chase. A source close to the situation said on Wednesday that the ship, the MSC Guyane, is part of a transportation strategy fund run for the bank's asset management unit. That means J.P. Morgan Chase does not have any operational control of the vessel, a Liberian flagship that is run by Swiss-based Mediterranean shipping company. The bank had no comment. Law enforcement agents boarded the MSC on June 17th and found the cocaine, which is said to have a street value of about $1.3 billion. At the time, just the drugs were seized by the United States Customs Border and Protection Agency, but the U.S. Attorney Office for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania announced Monday that it has issued a warrant on July 4th that allowed the CPB to take custody of the ship itself as well. A seizure of a vessel this massive is complicated and unprecedented, but it is appropriate because the circumstances here are also unprecedented, said U.S. Attorney William McSwain in a statement Monday. When a vessel brings such an outrageous amount of deadly drugs into Philadelphia waters, and I find it interesting in coming through Philly, but anyhow, my office and our agency partners will pursue the most severe consequences possible against all involved parties in order to protect our district and our country, McSwain added. Mediterranean Shipping Company said in a statement on June 18 that unfortunately Shipping and logistic companies are from time to time affected by trafficking problems. MSC has a long-standing history of cooperating with the U.S. federal law enforcement agencies to help disrupt illegal narcotic trafficking. MSC added in an update Tuesday that it is cooperating with law enforcement and is not a target of the U.S. government's investigation. Seizing a vessel of this size is an unusual enforcement action for the customs, the CBP, but it is an indication of serious consequences associated with an alleged conspiracy by crew members and others to smuggle a record load of dangerous drugs through the United States, added Casey Durst, the CBP's Director of Field Operations in Baltimore. MSC said that the ship was en route to Northern Europe at the time it was seized, and that aside from the containers held by authorities in the United States, all other cargoes have been sent along to their destination on other MSC vessels. So again, that was the article I was reading out of Sea and Business. Cargo ships owned by J.P. Morgan Chase seized by U.S. with 20 tons of cocaine, and that came in. Actually, this one was dated yesterday at 6:08, but now other news medias are picking it up, so you can go on there and see. So I'll pause in case you want to put something on it, Brother Sean.
Yeah. Sound to me like they had been snitching on everybody else in order to keep their shipments going through. They was deflecting. You know,
yeah.
the Donald ain't playing ball with him. He said he was going after their money every which way he could.
And see,
you know they here with that. You know, all that's Democrat money. As far as for the drugs and this, that, and the other, I wouldn't be surprised if Warren Buffett come up mentioning some of this stuff.
Well, what we do know is that if you research the drug trade, and if you ever really want to know how far up the drug trade has gone, I highly recommend a book. And rest in power to this man, Caucasian brother, Gary Webb. He lost his life writing this book called Dark Alliance. And he literally researched and brought the receipts on tying the crack cocaine era, the drug trade, all the way up to the White House, through the Pentagon, through the military. I'm telling you all, it was deep. My mouth dropped. I never looked at the drug trade the same. And then I started to do a little bit more research behind the scenes. And you go back some years and you find out like HSBC in Hong Kong was involved in the heroin trade. So that article does not surprise me. Now, although, you know, J.P. Morgan ain't commenting on the shit, they just own the vessels, it doesn't surprise me, because what folks need to start waking up and realizing, there's two sets of money or fiat that these folks operate in. It's the monopolistic side that they already control, and then there's the underground dark money as well. Okay, and a lot of those things, they run through shell companies. They run through nonprofit organizations and all of that jazz. So drugs is definitely one of them. It's always been a big business, and everybody has always been getting a cut off of it. So the people that pay the price for the drug game are the black and brown. Those are the ones that are getting locked up. But the ones that's really making the billions and billions of dollars off of it are the protected ones. Those are the ones that are running these corporations, and maybe not even the ones running the corporations, but it's the ones that put the people in power that run the big money corporations that are behind the scenes running these black markets. And it's interesting that that's coming out, because I was just thinking about there's a show on FX called Snowfall, and it's talking about the drug game. And really, to be honest, it is the story that they adapted from the book Dark Alliance. Okay, it's literally the same exact story. And out of that book, The Dark Alliance, Gary Webb interviewed a melanated man called Freeway Ricky Ross. That's where the rapper Rick Ross took his name. He literally took it from a brother who was a drug dealer out in Los Angeles, but his nickname was Freeway Ricky Ross. Okay, but indirectly, Freeway Ricky Ross did not even know that his drug connect was tied into that whole Iran-Contra thing. Okay, I'm telling you, y'all, I highly, highly recommend you get that book. They did do a movie on it, but the movie was all right, but the book has tons of receipts. It's very, very detailed, okay? So now that show Snowfall is really, to be honest, it is really the story of the brother Freeway Ricky Ross, who is now out of federal custody, because out of all of that Iran-Contra stuff, he was the only one that did time behind it. Literally, it has been proven that the Alphabet Boys were directly involved with starting the crack cocaine era. So I'm saying all that to say, seeing articles like this breaking news story, not surprising to me at all. But that's how deep this stuff runs. So I'll pause, Brother Sean, if you want to put something on it. If not, I'll go to the next thing. Go ahead.
Things must be getting tight, because if I remember correctly, if you're the owner of something and you're renting it out or leasing it out to somebody, it's supposed to be your business to know what they're doing with your stuff.
Especially when you're dealing with shipping. I've talked about this on this show several times, that, you know, when you're dealing with things coming in and out of the ports and commerce and the ship manifest and all that shit ain't no joke. That's serious business you're dealing with. But absolutely, I totally agree with you. And I got even a better question for you. Why the fuck is banking involved in shipping? Why is banking involved in shipping?
Yeah, they shipped all the gold up out of here.
I'll wait. Why the fuck is banking involved in shipping? Suspect to me. So I'm just saying. So, you know, while people are focusing on a border and a wall, it's pulling right up in the ports on a ship. Okay. And that's not including the airstrips we don't know about, the private air ports and all of that. So that's why I highly encourage you, if you ever really want to know about the drug game and how deep it really goes, You can rent the movie Dark Alliance, but if you get that book, you won't be able to put it down because it gives some heavy receipts with some very, very high, powerful names. It ran all the way up to the White House. My mouth just dropped. But yet, out of all of that Iran-Contra thing, the melanated man goes to jail. So...
Of course.
Not
Who else can be the Patsy and the downfall? I mean, you have to look at all the damage that was done behind all of that and which communities were affected the most.
Absolutely.
They don't want to take responsibility for that, and they can put a black face on it.
Absolutely. And, interestingly enough, shout out to Bobby Hemmett, because Bobby Hemmett said in the 90s, if you can find that YouTube video and go back and watch it, when the crack cocaine era was in place, he fucking called it. He said that he was told from a spirit and from the spirit realm that this crack cocaine epidemic that's hitting the melanated community is going to circle back and hit the white community. Karma is going to swing back around. So I'll pause. What epidemic do we have right now?
Mm-hmm.
And who's impacted the most? I'm saying that melanated people aren't impacted, but who's currently the most impacted by that?
Mm-hmm.
I rest my case. So again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That crack wound up getting them too. They didn't have the double whammy. They was hoping that wouldn't catch on with their people. But
yeah.
To this day, I'm still seeing more white crackheads than I am black.
Damn, I
let
the crack go, because it's easier to get the heroin and the opioids now than it is the crack, although they'll be better off on that crack than them opioids, because them opioids ain't nothing to F with. Nothing to F with, nothing to play with. Although
but they lacing that crack with the same stuff. Them brothers ain't growing that stuff and making their own stuff. I mean, people that they getting it from and already done what they gonna do to it.
Wow. Well, family, there you go. It is what it is, and until folks get themselves together, they're gonna keep repeating these effed up cycles. So you think that you can do dirt on other people, and it's gonna come back. Only difference is, and I was just having this discussion with someone earlier this week, it's coming back a lot faster, and that's how we know that the vibration and the energy has changed. So in other words, the energy that you put out is coming back to you really, really fast, within a matter of days and sometimes hours and sometimes instantaneously. So none of this stuff is surprising me that all of this is shaken down. Yeah, a lot of it is, folks snitching on each other behind the scenes. And some of it is them calling themselves putting out false flags to keep, the populace involved. But at the end of the day, none of them tricks, none of them schemes are going to matter, because everybody has to match their energy and their frequency to Mother Earth or get the fuck on or be purged. The bottom line, be motherfucking purged. So now, you ain't got to argue with me. Again, stand your ass outside and argue with the elements about the bullshit. Argue with the suns, plural. That motherfucking UV radiation coming from underground and up above. You ain't got to argue with me. explaining to the elements. Another thing that I want to share with the family, I know I was having this discussion on Facebook with a sis because she posted that literally the sun is setting north. And I know I talked about that the last time we were on the air. I literally broke out my compass, and I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people doing that, but, breaking out their compasses, and we are documenting where the sun is setting in the north. Now, I have seen some people come back, well, this time of the year, blah, blah, look at them, and I ain't trying to hear that. Because I got the receipts last time, this time of the motherfucking year, because I got security cameras that snap pictures. And I know for a fact the sun is setting in a different spot. It's setting north. And so ain't nobody trying to hear that. I got the receipts from a picture perspective. It's a big difference from last year this time and now. Okay, so I'm not trying to hear that. You watch the sun and then come back and tell me the difference. Okay, not what you done Googled on some motherfucking website. Okay, but the sun, she was saying that the sun is definitely setting north. So it just so happened that day that she put that post up, it was either that day or the next day. Literally, it was a bad storm. So it was cloudy all day, and then it had rained, whatever. So it was about 9 o'clock. And so all of a sudden, I see this light coming through my window. So I was like, oh, hell no, I know ain't nobody up in my driveway. I don't feel like this crap. Who is this? So I walks outside and look at the driveway. It's the damn sun that was beaming out. And I looked up in the sky, and the sky was blue coming through the clouds. Blue like it was 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, oh, hell no. So I runs back in the house, get my camera, and snap the picture. This was 9:15 at night. I snapped these pictures, and the fucking sky was blue. Like it was 2-3 something in the afternoon. And so I went and Googled, what time was the sun supposed to set today in my area? It was supposed to be setting at 9:03, but yet I have pictures where the sky is blue, like it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon at 9:15. So I just sat there and watched. But you see the sun. I couldn't see the sun, but you see beneath these clouds, or behind these clouds rather. Supposedly the sun is setting with the orange and the yellow color. So literally it did not turn dark until like 9:35ish. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I was sharing that with the sis on Facebook, and I put the little pictures up there. And so I was having a conversation with another sis. She was like, wait a minute. What day did that happen? And I told, she said, oh my God, the same thing. And we're in different states. She said, the same thing happened to me. She said, but I didn't go and snap pictures. She said, I just thought I was just overthinking it. But yeah, it's like the sun came out for like 15 something minutes and it was supposed to be dark. So I'm sharing all this with the family to share that as we keep telling you all, and you can start documenting these things for yourself, that how we were taught things are on how the sun and the moon works and how it acts with the earth. It's not acting the same at all. We are literally documenting these things from the sun setting in the north. I'm trying to figure out how the sun is rising. It looks like it's rising south, but it's cloudy, so I have not been able to verify that for sure, but I'll give you all an update on that. It looks like it's rising a little bit more south than it is east. So I'll have to watch that a little more closely. So I did just want to update the family on that to me, everything is speeding up pretty fast on the changes that are taking place on Mother Earth. So I'll pause in case, Brother Sean, you want to put something on it before I go on to the next thing.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Then the other thing I want to talk about, we talked about, well, before I go to that, just on another weather thing, you all can go, and I'm starting to see videos. I know a sis brought it to me saying that folks were saying that the earthquakes in Cali that jumped off, at least one of them, they felt something fishy was going on with it. And one of the people she was saying said that it was underground bombs going off, this, that, and the third, cleaning things up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm like, yeah, they've been saying that shit for years, yada, yada, yada. But I ran across another video, and shit, I should have had it. I'll try to get it for you all. I'll try to have the name for you next week, where this one gentleman was saying that after that earthquake, a lot of the bees started dying in massive amounts of numbers, and the radiation levels were really, really high in those areas. So his theory is that possibly, and the other thing, the point that he was making, and that where the earthquake took place in Cali, that there is a military base. So his theory was that they were doing some type of testing underground, and he thinks that they were doing that testing to kind of get a gauge on, he said, either two possibilities or both. To get a gauge on the UV radiation, because we've talked about that, how the UV radiation has increased, and folks are documenting that as well on YouTube. Literally every day they're going outside, measuring the UV radiation in the air and measuring it at ground level. And because there's a gauge on the UV radiation level, and I think it's anything above a 10 is considered high. And based on what I've been seeing, how these folks been documenting, it's been way past that 10 level. So anyhow, this gentleman is saying in this other video that it's either them trying to look at that UV radiation and or trying to release pressure from underground, because it is scheduled for another big earthquake along that fault line to kick off, along that California earthquake fault line to kick off, and part of Yellowstone too. So that's his theory, that part of those earthquakes, the earthquakes could have been man-made. And he's thinking that because the bees dropped out of the sky, and we're thinking the bees that wind up dying, it was because of the UV, the high levels of UV radiation, and it was triggered by them to get a gauge on that UV radiation and or to release pressure from underground to prevent other earthquakes that are going to jump off in that region, because there are prophecies linking that California is literally physically going to break off from an earthquake into its own little island. So I just wanted to share that information with the family. Next week I'll have the name and the source of that video. And then you can also, in addition, just kind of try to do your own research on that one as well. So I'll pause for this, Sean, in case you want to put something on it.
Remember, on some of those older maps, the California was an island?
Absolutely. Yes, sir, I do. Absolutely. And if you look at it, can't you kind of see? Can't you see where it was? At one time, you could like see the line. Look, you know how like when you sew some shit up, you can see the seam, and you can see where it was sewn back. So yeah, you can kind of look and see where it was its own island. So yeah, but that's some of the prophecies that it's going to break off again as its own island. So we shall see, but we'll keep watching that one as well.
So in other words, the water is going to rise again.
Yes, and Brother Sean, can you just tell the family what you mean by that? Because when you said it, when I first heard you say it for the first time, I said, I'll be damned. He's correct. So if you could just go over what you mean when you say that.
All of the earth is connected. I mean, the water has to be sitting on something. So for people to sit up and say that a place was sunken or lost or this, that, or the other, only thing that happened was the water rose.
Yeah.
When the water rises, certain areas get covered. When the water recedes, then it's uncovered. It ain't that something new was found or mysteriously appeared. It's already there. It's just underwater.
Yep. Just like recently, those islands showed up off of an island showed up off of the coast of South Carolina, and it was a couple of other places that islands are showing back up. So yeah, this is going to be really interesting, y'all. Really interesting. And we don't know, I mean, supposedly and allegedly, I don't know how true this is, that there is some military map that has what the future of the Americas would look like. And a lot of stuff is going to go back up underwater, like some of the East Coast. The map I saw had Florida underwater. Most of the coastal areas were underwater, and then it was almost like what they're calling the United States was almost separated with water. So in other words, the Mississippi River, if I'm remembering it correctly in my head, risen to a new height and flooded out some other things. So now I don't know how true that is. I don't know if that's a myth, or if someone has made it up. But what we do know is the landscape is definitely changing. Now, the other theory that is out there with the mud flood community, that they could be using technology, that scalar technology, to create these things underground to cause these things to happen. But either way, we do know that the landscape is certainly changing. I personally think it's a combination of both. They are trying to control it by their version of technology that they're using, but it is naturally happening because, the planet or Mother Earth ultimately decides how she wants her landscape to be. So any form of terraforming that they're trying to do and that they have done, because that's basically what has happened on her, is a lot of terraforming. She's going to do what she damn wants to do anyway. That's what the whole deal is with the shifting of the magnetic pole. She controls that. So very interesting stuff. We'll definitely keep watching it and keeping the family updated. The other thing I wanted to share with you all, article came out yesterday in this publication called The Atlantic. Now, I'm minding my business. Ta-ta-ta. Last time we were on the air, remember we went over the whole thing about those African maps. I gave you the sources to go look at those African maps yourself, and we saw indeed in those African maps how they had white people accounted for on those African maps, as well as the African Moors and I'm saying African Moors because they were depicted with fezes on for the most part in that map. And then in addition to having white people on the map, you also had these other species or these beings. And you saw folks fighting with these different species or beings. Now, the one map, and I'm looking at the map, is called EBSTORFER. EBSTORFER. You can go and look at the map yourself. You look in the top left-hand corner of the map. So they have a face of it looks like a woman in the middle. You look to the left. And I went back and looked at the map, my motherfucking mouth dropped. You're going to see them depicting creation. And you're going to see them with a man and a woman standing on one side, and in the middle of what they're standing beside is a DNA strand. You look right to the left of it, you see another creature, and then to the left of the creature is another motherfucking DNA strand. And I literally just noticed this when I have been seeing this map for at least this probably the second year. And I just went back after we did the show last time, and I just noticed that. I said, get the hell out of here. They're pretty much telling you that there were different creations going on these lands, what are now called Africa. And on this same map, that's when you're going to see all these other species, and you're going to see species underground and all of that. Okay, so remember that's what we talked about last week. All right, back to this article, minding my own business. The story of humans and Neanderthals in Europe is being rewritten. A 210,000-year-old skull is the oldest Homo sapien fossil found outside Africa. Can't make this shit up. Cannot make this shit up. Literally, this article just came out yesterday. In 1978, in a cave called Epidema at the southern end of Greece. Let me pause and take a motherfucking swig of my water. These areas that we're talking about as we're reading this book, The Giant Cities of Bashan, weren't the people that were going through these areas also known as the Greeks and the Romans? Yeah. But I'm going to keep reading. Yeah, okay. Okay. I'm just as you know, we say in the South, I'm just finna keep on reading. In 1978, in a cave called Epidema at the southern end of Greece, a group of anthropologists found a pair of human-like skulls. One had a face but was badly distorted, and the other was just the left half of a brain case. Researchers guessed that they might be Neanderthals or perhaps another ancient humanid or humanid. And since they were entombed together in a block of stone no bigger than a microwave, it was always assumed that they were the same species and came from the same time period, says Catherine Havarti from Eberhard Karl's University of Tübingen. That's wrong. By thoroughly analyzing both skulls using modern techniques, Havarti and her colleagues have shown that they are very different in both age and identity. The one with the face, known as Epidema 2, is a 170,000-year-old Neanderthal, no surprise there, but the other, Epidema 1, was one of us, a 210,000-year-old modern human. And if the team is right about that, the partial skull is the oldest specimen of Homo sapien outside Africa, handily beating the previous record holder, a jawbone from Israel's Misla cave that's about 180,000 years old. I couldn't believe it at first, Havarti said, but all the analysis we conducted gave the same result. Until now, most researchers have found on the more complete but less interesting of the two skulls, Epidema 1 has just been ignored, said Havarti. But its antiquity matters for three reasons. First, it pushes back the known presence of modern human outside Africa by some 30,000 years. Second, it's considerably older than all other humans, sapiens found. Homo sapien fossils from Europe, all of which are 40,000 years old or younger. Third, it's older than the Neanderthal skull next to it. Collectively, these traits mess up the standard story of Neanderthal and modern human evolution. According to that narrative, Neanderthals slowly evolved in Europe, largely isolated from other kinds of hominins. When modern humans expanded out of Africa, their movements into Europe might have been stalled by the presence of the already successful Neanderthal. That explains why Homo sapiens stuck to a more southerly route into Asia and why they left no European fossils until about 40,000 years ago. The idea of Europe as Fortress Neanderthal has been gaining ground, says Rebecca Rags Skies, an archaeologist from the University of Bordeaux, but identifying a 200,000-year-old Homo sapien skull from Europe really undermines that. It suggests that early Homo sapien groups got further than we may have previously thought, occasionally occupying territories that later became that of Neanderthals, as Shira Bailey, an anthropologist at NYU. Findings like this are very important in informing us of the evolution of our species. So wait a minute, let me pause and drink a little water. How's that evolution, y'all, when they're saying it's two sets? Or am I missing something in that? Am I missing that? Oh, okay. I just want to motherfucking make sure. Because they identified two sets. Literally, they identified two distinct sets. Okay. And then that's still not going back millions of years. So really, that's three sets. So if you think about the indigenous of the planet, of these different areas, then you got to factor in the goddamn giants and titans. Now you got the humanids, whatever the fuck, or hominids, whatever the fuck they calling them. Then you got the sapiens. Then now they're saying Neanderthal, and probably the Homo sapiens evolved into the Neanderthal, or they mixed bloodlines, but they can miss me with the bullshit. In this article, you are identifying two different separate species. Okay? All right. The identity of Apodema 1 could also cast doubt on other archaeological finds from Europe, such as stone tools with no accompanying fossils. Researchers had long assumed that within a certain time window, any archaeology was all the work of Neanderthal, says Rag Skies. But if modern humans also occupied this safe range, which species actually created those artifacts? Okay, so once again, you're identifying two sets. These interpretations depend on the dating of the Apodema skulls, which has always been difficult. They were found in an odd place, a small niche near the cave ceiling, separated from any sediment that could have been easily dated. They were also entombed in breccia, a composite rock made from fragments that have been cemented together. It seems that as Ice Age came and went, and there you go, Brother Sean, and sea levels rose and fell, parts of the cave's interior were flooded and eroded, and both skulls were dislodged from their original resting places. They fell into cavity and got stuck. Havarti's team estimated their ages by analyzing the minute amounts of uranium within them. They then scanned both skulls, reconstructed what they would have looked like before being broken and distorted, and compared their three-dimensional shape with those of other hominins. In that comparison, Apodema 2 clearly clustered with Neanderthal, while Apodema 1 grouped with the skull from modern humans. How much information can scientists really glean from just the back of the skull and just the left half? At that, actually quite a lot. Parvati says that region is very informative when telling different hominids apart. Okay, so I'm going to take another swig of water, and maybe this is just my lack of knowledge, and I'll accept that and take that. I didn't know it was motherfucking different types of hominids. I didn't know that, but okay. All right. Apodema 1 lacks several traits that are distinctively Neanderthal, while its rounded shape is considered to be a uniquely modern human feature that evolved relatively late, Havarti says. But it doesn't look like classic Homo sapien, says Rag Skies, who wonders whether it represents a group of humans. Yeah, I'm going to take another swig of water. I can't make this shit up. But it doesn't look like classic Homo sapien, says Rag Skies, who wonders whether it represents a group of humans that had been interbreeding with Neanderthals or other ancient hominids. Obviously, everyone is going to want to see the DNA out of that skull, she asked. The team's analysis is convincing, and its study is one of the several that have recently shaken our understanding of human evolution, says Mina Weinstein-Aron from the University of Haifa finds like 300,000-year-old bones from Jebel Arhoud in Morocco suggest, I'm telling you, I didn't make none of this shit up, suggest that, finds like 300,000-year-old bones from Jebel Arhoud in Morocco suggest that our species arose from several diverse populations that lived across Africa. Meanwhile, bones from Maslaya and Apodema tell us that early humans then expanded into other continents and interacted with other hominids far earlier than previously thought. The Apodema skulls also suggest that the accepted story of Europe, in which modern humans eventually replaced the long-dominated Neanderthals, is too simple. Instead, Havarti thinks that the modern humans who were already in Greece about 200,000 years ago, that they were then replaced by Neanderthals, who were themselves replaced by humans about 40,000 years ago. A similar cycle of competition where Neanderthals and humans repeatedly replaced each other seems to have happened in the Levant, the Middle Eastern region that includes Israel and Syria. So I'm going to pause. What area are the cities of Bashan, the giant cities of Bashan located in?
You already know, over there, Palestine and all them good places, the very places you're talking about.
Exactly. We can't refer to Homo sapiens as a success in terms of being able to move into new areas and stay there, Rag Sky says. Of course, it's possible that both hominids just live together, but genetic studies suggest that while they did intermediately meet and mate, the groups weren't in constant contact. I don't think they coexisted, says Havarti. But maybe I'm wrong. We don't have the evidence one way or the other, and we need to look for more. Greece is a good place to start. It's at the crossroads. Damn, they brought it in this goddamn article. It's at the crossroads of three major continents, and it's a refuge where animals and humans could survive at the height of the Ice Age, Havarti says. You'll predict population dispersals and range contradictions in these areas and possibly for contact between different groups. At a more diverse human fossil record than you find in distant parts of Europe. There aren't many fossils in the regions, but it hasn't been much of a research priority. The Apodema skulls illustrate that there is much to learn in areas outside of Western Europe and the Levant, where most of our research has been concentrated, said Bailey. We may find that the first anatomically modern human lacks the kind of advances that later Homo sapiens may have had, the very same advantages, she said, that led to our ultimate domination. All right, so again, this particular article is out of the publication The Atlantic. It came out yesterday. The story of humans and Neanderthals in Europe is being rewritten. So I'll pause, Brother Sean, in case you want to.
Yeah, for one, what does that do to their biblical timeline? As far as for when things were supposed to be created and instead of the other. And also, they focus too much on that word human.
Yes.
Now, I'm still waiting to see that term and indigenous languages before they came along.
Right.
Because, I mean, obviously they saying that they were genetically manipulated. They're saying that they evolved as some type of species. We original, we still original. We stay original because that's what we are.
Right.
So, I mean, as far as for us going to our higher selves, I mean, other than that, I mean, we're not human. I know I'm not. I mean, I can't speak for everybody else that want to be that. But
right. Right.
that word human is human and mankind and man, period, has been associated with them.
Mm-hmm. A mixture of things. Yes. A mixture of things.
For us to even utilize such terminology, we limit ourselves.
Agreed. Agreed.
That's going off on something different, but, you know.
Yeah, I see you, Brother 832, I'm bringing you on. Yeah, it just, again, now I'm minding my business, and this shows up, on my doggone phone on my news feed. So I was just blown back because literally about a week or so ago, I had went back and looked at that same map. And when I saw them depict on that map 2 sets of creations, my mouth just fucking dropped. I'm like, oh my God, so they're telling you that genetic manipulation was going on, because on the one side of the map with the human man and woman represented with the DNA strand going up, it represented Caucasian. Now, this is the map of Africa, now mind you. So first of all, what the fuck is the Caucasians doing over there? Okay, that's number one. Okay, then right next to them, you had some other species represented with the DNA strand. So they were clearly, and then all throughout the map, you see these different mixtures of species, and you do see melanated folks on the map as well, and you do see Caucasian people on the map as well. So then, they come out with this article talking about these different species and how they came out of Africa. Oh, okay, then out of the Middle East, Syria, this, that, and the third. Oh, okay, then. Okay. All right, let me bring on Brother 832. Peace and love, brother. Your line is open.
Rhonda, my sister from another mister. Mrs. Sandra tonight. Sean,
I know.
my brother from another brother, sitting on Mount Olympus, throwing black lightning bolts down tonight.
What's good with it, bro?
I wanted to, this is kind of irrelevant, but I wanted to use it in the context of everything that you're saying, my sister. Then I'm sure both of you heard in passing this absolute dubious nonsense from Mitch, and I'm going to say it in the way that Kevin Hart in Real House Husbands, you know what a Mitch is? The male bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So Mitch McConnell said that he finds himself curiously once again in lockstep with Barack Hussein Obama, being opposed to reparations, which is dubious at best, and the descendant of slave owners. Did you hear that? That's this week. There's a second level of responding to him from that reparations subcommittee hearing on Juneteenth. Now, using that, I'm going to, be expansive and then laser like, drill down on something particular what I'm hearing you say. Asians, Caucasians, which includes the word Asian, Africans,
right,
Indians, etc. Remember, we've been told a various number of things. I don't know whether it's Pangea or if you listen to some of Dane's even more recent videos that he come up with. You saw the one about the origin of the word Africa? I think I got that from you a couple of weeks ago. Now, Pangea, if we look at this as a jigsaw puzzle with us being the center and all the other land masses breaking away from them, we have to mix a lot of this and put it in a context as well as why you have the Book of Enki, the Bhagavad Gita, the Confucianism, Buddhism, all the different religious philosophies all have some variation of this creationism story that you just laid out in a so-called different fashion that is now going to be described as scientific, right? Now, these beings, these beasts who cannot say that they're more than, let's say for the longest stretch, 10 to 25,000 years, okay? Whether you're talking ancient Kemet, China, Krishna, Confucianism, which, by the way, two just points of fact. Manchuria is the original name, is it not, Sean? Before the British then pronounced it China, and Hindustan before they pronounced it India, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now all these places still aren't 1/10 the antiquity of what, when rocks cry out, one book from one brother or his brother, who compiled the information of these Charles Darwinist, evolutionary thinking Caucasoid scholars. Okay? In other words, he compiled their scholarship, right? And Peru and Cusco is how old, Sean? How ancient is the step pyramids from down there? And we still don't even want to look at the ones that are up in North America at borderline Canada.
The ones that they ain't even talking about, they're still behind trees and stuff that they over there digging in.
Or that they call mountains. Think of a man-made structure that is the size of a mountain. Okay?
Yep.
How old? Now, these people are going to tell us something is 200, 300, 400, 500,000 years old, and they're not 50,000?
Yeah.
They're not, to me, that's the first, forgive me, but that's just my little warped thinking. This is dubious at best. Okay, so now let's just, for the sake of our conversation, let's accept. Okay? Where is anything of white origin ancient? Whatever it is that you want to call it. Now, it's very interesting to me that these people that call themselves Caucasian, European, so-called white, pale-skinned individuals, as you just said, the preeminent scholar, Charles Darwin, said they're an evolutionary tangent. Now, what you're saying, is there a breakaway from Neanderthal to what is the new species you're saying being created now? Or being proffered as a potential gene pool? And how in the world are you going to tell me something is a couple 100,000 years old, undisturbed, until you all of a sudden, just like Christopher Columbus, stumbled upon and discovered something? From the moment you came across it, 200,000 years prior, this being was buried. That's what I'm supposed to believe when I listen to archaeological. So, no,
right.
I'm just asking. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah. Nope. It's very, very good points, brother. Very good point.
And what has happened geologically? Like you just said, now we got this earthquake. So do you know there's been, what is it, like in the last 2 to 3 months, barely 90 days, there's been over 500 earthquake events? And that's what's being reported.
Exactly.
How much has happened in 200,000 years?
I don't know.
I'm not saying I have any answers. I'm just, just making an observation. Now, these people, and thank you, Sean, for saying what you said, because it was kind of lurking around in the deep, dark crevices of my mind, that if we are antiquity by definition, do we even know what our DNA is? Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's between 500,000 and 1 million years old.
Right.
And these babies, not even babies, these like our great, 10-time great grandchildren are telling us what? The fact that we're listening to it for one, but they're telling us what? And then I'm supposed to believe it. When you look objectively in contemporary time, as y'all have been doing very yeoman work, talking about whether you call it dark matter, whether you call it, what is it said, the goo. You heard from other lawyers that they call it the goo. They
right.
it into the movie Venom. If you've never seen the movie Venom, it talks about a symbiote that travels in the deep, dark space. He comes to Earth. Now, he knows everybody's coming to America.
Right.
And I mean that it's pun intended.
Everybody coming to America. Right.
Okay. So now you didn't travel over how many parsecs and billions of light years?
Right.
To come here and meet these Caucasoids?
But you're dark matter.
It's me. It's me, Rhonda. It's me. It's me. It's something wrong with me. I mean, this is always the thought process in my mind about how this doesn't make sense.
Right.
None. Not even taking off the simple fact these people are consummate liars.
Yeah.
Period. In the paragraph.
Yeah, just
How is anything coming out of their mouth taken by us as credible?
Yeah.
And then we even use words like expert. Scholarship. I love the way Dane has put that. All scholar means is you're a student.
That's true.
But it sounds so lofty when you hear someone say scholarship, right? With a PhD, which, I used to say back in the day. BS is bullshit. MS is more shit. PhD is piled high and deep.
Right.
And we let them pile it even higher, into more depth, and now into hundreds of thousands of years in reverse. And what they're trying to say, and I'm being convoluted a little bit here, I'm rambling around a bit, is they are trying to say, and you see this in the subtext of sci-fi movies, we don't exist in the future, in their mindset. They had the gall to declare we didn't exist in history. Yeah, well, but remember, they have whitewashed history.
Right. So
they have tried to draw a line of continuity where we didn't exist and we are the origin. Like Sean just pointed out. I mean, nothing originates but from us. But we are being bombarded with, and I'm using air quotes here, white scholarship, white his story, and God forbid, we still have yet to get to factual history.
Right.
You see? Because everything that we're discussing now, too, we're doing it through the lens of who? And I'm not directing this at you personally, I'm saying, because we're researching.
I'm not taking it personal.
Yeah, but what the articles that are being said, the fucking academic journals, et cetera, all this shit is in their domain.
Right.
Under their toxic leadership. And then remember the old days about the miners 49ers, the mining for gold, panhandlers they call them, back in the day. we're having to sift through all this shit.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yep.
This Caucasoid toxic ideology to barely get some kernels of truth, and then we still got to piece it together.
Yep.
So I say this in parting. There's a couple of articles that came up too, talking about not just about Mitch McConnell and the invective of Rush Limbaugh and how this white supremacist agenda, has culminated in having this idiot in chief tweeting on a toilet every day. But this stuff has to end, and I think you guys do it much better. And I appreciate definitely what you and Sean and Sandra do week in and week out, is to take the focus within and understand it is infinite. When we're talking thresholds of millions of years, we don't know how many ancient civilizations have been cast aside, have no longer been considered, that are underneath how many tectonic plates. And how much, as Sean has said, that is submerged, it's underwater, it's still connected. And
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much. Peace and love to you, brother. Absolutely. I do want to say, just to add on to what Brother 832 was saying, that, I just find it interesting because, like I said before, everything is moving really fast from a vibratory standpoint. So, folks can keep lying to themselves if they want to. That's on them, because everybody that is walking in this realm, that is walking on mama, is supposed to be getting your shit together, going within and knowing who you are. So, melanated people, I done went over that several times, but the Caucasian folks, that includes you too. You need to get your head out the fucking sand. Stop taking other people's identities and get your shit together. Okay? Because it's not going to be a good thing. You're taking on all these titles and identities that have absolutely nothing to do with you. It's your responsibility to find out who you are, where your bloodline comes from, not the fantasy story that you want, but what it truly is. So great point, Brother 832. I want to also send a shout out to Purple Peel in the chat room. He was making some damn good comments. He kind of honed in when we were talking about human. And he was saying human and human, so Hueman, and then he goes Gentile. So what does Gentile mean? So he broke down what the word Gentile really means. Gen, Gen, damn, and you know what else, Purple Pill? God damn it, what just came to me? Gen could also be Jin. Son of a gun. This shit is deep, y'all. Well, we'll start with Purple Pills. Gentile, Gen, Gen, in parentheses, gene. Tile, Tin, in German means teal or parted, separated, spliced, torn. So, and then he puts in here, so all of you ninjas out there claiming to be Gentile, and I'm going to throw in there Jin, Jin, tile, parted, separated, spliced, torn, got another thing coming. So, yes, and Jen could be Djinn, but I automatically, what came to me was Jin. Very, 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 very interesting. Okay, so I'll pause in case you want to put something on it. Brother Sean. If not,
I'm here, sis.
Okay.
I just happen to be on call, and I got a call. I'm working.
Oh, okay. Okay, no. I just stopped in. Okay, all right. No worries. Okay, so I do want to. We're going to get into the topic of tonight's shows, The Lands of the Giants, Part 11, and do want to send out a shout out to Sis Cheryl. She sent me something. Giants and Ancient North America Warfare. Okay, and this is actually off of a biblical website called bibliothecolapsidi.net. All right, so here it is, the legend. From Henry Schoolcraft, noted scholar on the subject, we have this reference to a most antique and mysterious tribe or nation. The oldest tribe of the United States, of which there is a distant tradition, were the Allegons. The term is perpetuated in the principal chain of mountains traversing the country. This tribe at the antique period had the seat of power, Brother Sean, in the Ohio Valley and its confluent streams, which were the sites of their numerous towns and villages. They appear originally to have borne the name Alley or Allige. Okay, so Purple Pill, I'm looking for you to drop the etymology in the chat. And hence the names of Talajiwi and Alajiwi. By adding to the radical of this word the particle hani or gani, meaning river, they describe the principal scene of their resident, namely the Allegheny and river of the Allegheny, now called Ohio. The word Ohio is of Iroquois origin and of a far later period, having been bestowed by them after their conquest of their country in alliance with the Lenapes or ancient, shit, have me take a swig. Lenape, that's it. Soon as I hit Delaware, I knew how to motherfucking pronounce that tribe. The Lenape. Okay, I don't know if the Lenape's going to agree with that, but okay, I'm going to go head on. Interesting. Woo-hoo-hoo. Let's see what they're talking about. Or the Delawares. The term was applied to the entire river from its confluence with the Mississippi to its origin in the broad spurs of the Allegheny in New York and Pennsylvania, and the designation to its sources is still continued in use by that people. From the traditions of the Lenapes given to the Moravian missionaries, while the lamp of their traditional history still threw out its flickering but enlivening flames, the Alleghenies had been a strong and mighty people capable of great exertions and doing wonders. Lenape. All right, Schoolcraft, referring to the entire Appalachian chain as the Alleghenies, is believed to have secured his information specifically from the writings of John Heckewelder, assistants to the Moravian missionary David Zasberger. Okay, so I think the Moravia, damn, I know I've heard that before. I'll have to go back and research it because this is my first time seeing this, y'all. I know I've seen that before. It came up somewhere before. Want to say out of Italy somewhere, but I could be wrong. Okay, Together, Zeisberger and Heckewelder founded the town of Shelburne near present-day New Philadelphia, Ohio. They successfully converted as many as 400 Delaware to the Christian faith throughout peaceful persuasion, doubtless making many close allies during the work. Heckewelder's account may not be the only one concerning prehistoric America, but it is surely reliable, for the conveyance of the tradition of Delaware, who were derived, however indirect, of the venerable Lenape, Lenni Lenape. Heckewelder writes regarding the Allegheny. Many wonderful things are told of this famous people. They are said to have been remarkably tall and stout, and there is a giant. And there is a tradition that there were giants among them, people of a much larger size than the tallest of the Lenape. Okay, so shout out to the indigenous Lenape out of Delaware. And that's really the only way I knew how to pronounce this name properly, because they have stepped forward. They founded their own indigenous tribe and all of that, and are recognized ABC 123. So this is really good information. They've been digging into their roots, so I would be really interested to see them do some research on some of these supposed ancient fables directly linking their people. I would really, really be interested if some of their elders have told any of these stories that this one we're about to read, because we do have access to the indigenous Lenape of the land of Delaware. All right, so many centuries ago, the Lenape, for some undisclosed reason, moved in masses from the western half of present-day United States towards the east. As the legend goes, these people found themselves at the shores of Mississippi. The white man's enunciation of Nasimi Supi, river of fish. There they met with Menwe, who had come from a bit further north and closer to the source of Namsi Supi, perhaps the present-day Missouri. It was a meeting of destiny and was at the first time a peaceful one. The Lenape sent out their scouts across the broad current. James, and damn, I was just listening to a video literally before I came on air with the Lenape, the indigenous Lenape people. I can't make this shit up. Damn, literally I was just listening to a video. Okay, anyway, James A. Jones, another writer of the time, relates of the occasion of the safe return of these spies for the Lenape, having reconnoitered the eastern side of the Mississippi. They told that they had found the further bank of the river of fish inhabited by a very powerful people who dwelt in great villages surrounded by high walls. They were very tall, so tall that the head of the tallest Lenape could not reach their arms, and their women were of higher stature and heavier limbs than the loftiest of the largest men in the Confederate nations. They were called the Allegheny and were men delighting in red and black paint and the shrill war whoop and the strife of the spear. Such was the relation and made by spies to their countrymen. The legend moves very quickly then into the words of Heckewelder. They sent a message to the Allegheny to request permission to settle themselves in their neighborhood. This was refused them, but they obtained leave to pass through the country and seek a settlement further to the eastward. They accordingly began to cross the Namsi Supi when the Alajwi, seeing that their numbers were so great, and in fact they considered of many thousand, made a furious attack on those that had crossed, threatening them all with destruction if they dared persist in coming over to the side of the river, fired at the treachery of these people and the great loss of men they had sustained. And besides not being prepared for a conflict, the Lenape consulted on what was to be done, whether to retreat in the best manner they could or try their strength and let the enemy see they were not cowards. While one should always be aware that history as related by the victorious side may not be history as it actually occurred, nevertheless, the resultant war is related as eventually becoming an overwhelming loss for the Alagans or Allegians. I could be pronouncing this all wrong, y'all, so forgive me ahead of time. Whether the Lenape were considered deceitful is not disclosing their vast hoard is perhaps irrelevant. While one account says the Alajiwi were extirpated, another relates of their escape down the Mississippi. The Lenni Lenape, having made an alliance with the Menjawi, took many years and through a great loss of people, claimed to have finally defeated the Alajans through force of arms. As noted again later, these Menjwe followed after the Lenape in war, staying back to avoid injury as much as they might. Perhaps this was an account of their agreement that upon the defeat of the Allegheny people, that the Lenni Lenape would take for themselves the heartland of their adversaries, while the Menjwe would be awarded the lands to the north near the Great Lakes and the latitude whence they came. As the legend completes itself, the two triumph tribes lived together in peace and cooperation for many centuries. But having done this, it is related to the lands to the east were found to be inhabited by any enemy, and that they were rich and beautiful, the destiny of the great spirit of the people. On this account, they ultimately moved eastward, leaving again the Ohio country comparatively vacant. Out of these ancient people of the Lenape, who are assumed to have bred with the Menjwe only to a lesser extent at the beginning, no less than 40 tribes are said thereafter to have arisen. In hindsight, not only would this have required a great number of generations, but also it may explain the difficulty DNA pattern matching with an ancestral people living millennials before. As for the Menjwe, their destiny, damn y'all, as the Iroquois is well known, being that the confederation of the 5 tribes and then the Tuscarora, later, of course, the Lenni Lenape as the Delaware, became bitter enemies with the Iroquois. Okay, absolutely. Now, interestingly enough, the Lenape, they're very adamant with the Iroquois. And, you know, some folks that are getting into the whole Moorish thing and saying that, you know, the Moors were of the Iroquois nation and, you know, that includes the Lenape. So we're trying to attach themselves to the Lenape. The Lenape were very, very adamant, and I'm talking about today. The indigenous Lenape were very, very adamant. No, that's not the case because we were at war with you all. So, shout out again to the Lenape, because even this little article is backing up what you all have been saying, that y'all was scrapping with the Iroquois. All right, so David Cusack, a Tiscoria by birth, writes in 1825 that among the legend of ancient stock, there was a powerful tribe called, oh shit, y'all, the Rhino Guatanca. Damn, woo, yeah, let me drink some water. Let me take a sip of water. Brother Shine about to get into the mound builders and all. I'm almost done though, y'all. I'm finna spell this little tribe because it's a tongue taggler. It's easy, but it's so many consonant ties together that it's tripping me up. But it's Ronnon. Oh, so Ronan, Gwetowanca. They were giants and had a considerable habitation. He says that when the Great Spirit made the people, some of them became giants. The giants were said to have had a silly mode of attack, waiting under their intended victim, was not expecting anything. After a time, and having endured the outrage of these giants, it is said that the people ended together and through the final force of about 800 warriors successfully annihilated all of the that are giant tribe. Y'all, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. After that, it was said that there were no giants anywhere. This was supposed to have happened around 2,500 winters before Columbus discovered America, around 1000 BCE, the time that Adena seemed to have arrived in the Ohio Valley. There appears to be a coincidental link combining legend and archaeology between the possible existence of a great nation having giants among their people, their struggle in war, and the beginning time of the Adena in the Ohio Valley. The mound builders. It is no great stretch to reason the possibility that mound construction, especially mortaria, was not necessarily transferred to the Ohio region from the southeast region. In point of view, there may be logic in it. Heckwelder writes, having thus united their forces, the Lenape and the Mengwe declared war against the Alajwe and Alajwe, whatever, and great battles were fought, in which many warriors fell on both sides. An engagement took place in which hundreds fell, who were afterward buried in holes or laid together in heaps and covered over with earth. Damn. So they trying to say the mounds were graves? Anyhow, such an after-battle chore would be the warrior's choice. Mound building of this type is an ancient a practice as can be imagined. It was not only clean, but was practical and probably respectable as well. Then from where the Mengwe are thought to have come before they joined the Lenape, from the region of the Mississippi source confluence at the Dakota, Missouri, we have this originally entitled A Prehistoric Cemetery. 2 miles from Mandan, on the bluffs near the junction of the Hart and Missouri rivers, says the local newspaper, The Pioneer is an old cemetery of fully 100 acres in extent, filled with bones of a giant race. Get the hell out of here, y'all. So, along the Missouri rivers, they found giant bones. I can't with damn. So, This vast city of dead lies just east of Fort Lincoln Road. The ground has the appearance of having been filled with trenches piled full of dead bodies, both man and beast, and covered with several feet of earth. In many places, mounds from 8 to 10 feet high, and some of them 100 feet or more in length, have been thrown up and filled with bones, broken pottery, bases of various bright-colored flint and agates. The pottery is of a dark material, beautifully decorated, delicate in finish, and as a light as wood, showing the work of a people skilled in arts and possessed of a high state of civilization. This has evidence been a grand battlefield where thousands of men have fallen. Nothing like a systematic or intelligent exploration has been made, as only little holes 2 or 3 feet in depth have been dug in some of the mounds, but many parts of the anatomy of men and beasts and beautiful specimens of broken pottery and other curiosities have been found in these feeble efforts as excavation. 5 miles from Mandan, on the opposite side of the Missouri, is another vast cemetery as yet unexplored. We asked an aged Indian what his people knew of these ancient graveyards. He answered, "Me know nothing about them. They were here." Yeah, I'm finna take a motherfucking sip of my water again, because my throat is getting dried out tonight. So they asked some Indian of this ancient graveyard. He answered, "Me know nothing about them. They were here before the red man." Mounds wherein the dead were placed and covered with earth to avoid open decay and the diseases associated with it are easy to accept as yesterday's news. This is a possible explanation for the origin of mounds for the honored dead, the slain heroes of men's sacrifice, and discharging the dreadful arts of war. Through the eyes of the participant warriors, such as a battlefield practice may have served as a fitting memorial reminding them of their struggles. Later, it could have been reenacted in quieter surroundings by the Adena, such mounds or cemeteries as quoted above, holding the remains of people above average stature, even giants, possibly pushes the practices of mound building back into an undisclosed period of prehistory. The inclusion of broken pottery in the above mound is similar to Adena practices of placing broken pottery in the field mounds. Could this be the symbolic of the soul's vessel being broken? Because Webb and Snow, Adena Peoples, 1981, page 315, 14 and 15, are empathetic that the Adena show no sign of being engaged in any warfare practices at all. One might assume that the practice was pre-Adena, reenacted to become as traditional by them. Okay, so I'm going to pause. Brother Sean, if you want to put something on that, damn.
I'm still here, sis.
Okay. Oh, okay, no problem. You go ahead. Okay, family, so bear with me. Let me, woo. All right, I see you, Purple Pill. You said, how do true Missourians pronounce Missouri? True Missourians pronounce Missouri as Missouri. Example, Ma-zu-ra, river of Ra. Kentucky, Buck and the Preacher. Wow. All right, Purple Pill. Keep throwing them in there. I'm going to check back in with you during breaks. All right. So now I'm going to go to second part from History of Huron and Erie counties. Woo, child. This is in Ohio. We also have this excerpt recorded by W.W. Williams in 1879. Now, isn't this interesting? Because the city of Bashan was released in 1865. So this goes to show you that they have been doing this research. And next week, we're going to have a lot of material because Sis is dropping in a lot of stuff about giants found in Ohio or whatever. So let me get back to this. In the township of Milan, there were 3 clearly defined as first seen by him when the first settlers came into the country, and they are still not entirely leveled by the plowshare. All right, so let me stop. First of all, let's talk about this name, Milan. I immediately thought of Italy. Okay, then second, they're sitting up here admitting that they were terraforming the land with these plows. So anybody, that lived in Ohio or lives in Ohio, that they cleared a lot of land, and specifically those mounds, to build these different cities and townships. Now, it's really messing me all the way up if, according to this article, those were grave mounds. Well, damn, is all I can say. Shouldn't be surprising to me, but just damn. But here we go. All three were upon the high banks of the Huron. F.W. Fowler, one of the pioneers of Milan, or I don't know if they're pronouncing it Milan, described these earthworks as first seen by him to have been from 2 to 4 feet above the surface of the ground. Large trees were growing upon some of these embankments. Near these forts were mounds of hillocks, which were found to contain human bones, promiscuously thrown together as if large numbers of bodies had been buried at one time. The skull bones, when found entire, were shown by measurement to be larger upon the average, and all exhibited marks that would indicate that life had been taken in a deadly combat. Scattered among the skulls and the vertebrae and arm and leg bones were stone pipes and fragments of burnt clay. Could these earthworks and remains have been slightly pre-Edina? The accounts of the Allegheny say that they built strong fortifications. Although the above notices offer some beginning evidence for earlier mounds, according to the 20th century archaeological investigation, the Edina seem to have started the practice of mound building for the dead. Curiously, the Edina had tall members among their people, extraordinary tall, in fact, and massive in skeletal structure, exactly the way the Allegheny were first described. This, however, does not mean that the Allegheny were the Edina, for there is no sign that the Edina were makers or receipts or war. This may be important to remember. Unlike the Allegheny, and in accord with the statistics of Webb and Snow, in the majority of Edina skeletons catalog, the average height of a man was considerably less than 6 feet, or about 5'6", and the women were proportionately smaller, about 5'3". but there were also numbers of burials catering to a special class of individuals, wherein the skeletal length of 6 feet was not uncommon. So while on the one hand, relatively fewer tall skeletons were discovered by academic archaeological efforts in the last century, on the other, enough were found to give rise to special theories concerning these people. Most Adena folks were apparently cremated. Don Dragu, in discussing these honored dead, referred to this taller Adena statue, says in his Mounds for the Dead, 2 outstanding traits have been noted repeatedly for this group. One is the protruding and massive chin with the prominent bilateral protrusion. The second trait is the large size of many of the males and some of the females. A male of 6 feet was common, and some individuals approached 7 feet in height have been found. Not only were these Adena people tall, but also the massiveness of their bones indicates powerfully built individuals. The head was generally big with a large cranial capacity. Massive and skeletal structure, perhaps reflecting the term stout used by Heckwelder. These observances were in the late Adena tombs, and although the early Adena graves yielded far fewer measurable remains, large skulls were also discovered among those graves. Webb and Snow suggested that possibly sexual and social selection being factored in the development of large chin Adena types. So that's interesting that they would pick that out. So are they trying to say that they were purposely mating with people of certain sizes or whatever? That's interesting. Thus, it is, of course, generally interpreted that these people possibly bred selectively. Dragu agrees, adding, if only certain inbreeding individuals of a total population were members of the selected group, genetic factors would also play an important part in the establishment of the unique Adena physical type found in the Adena tombs. Any changes, mutations in the gene pool, either dominant or recessive, would soon be distributed among all members of the group. It would make sense that such selective breeding would be an insidious practice, and for several good reasons. The main purpose could have been the creation of a guardian or warrior class made up of the physical superior men and women. All right, so Brother Sean, this reminds me of that cartoon that you sent me about the Giants. And when the one giant warrior, because it was the 2 younger giant girls, and they didn't want to fight and be warriors, because in this cartoon, it was the giant fighting against the quote quote human, and so these 2 young girls, they just got tired of all of the fighting, but they were literally raising them to be warriors. And one of the main characters, the giant girl, young girl, her bloodline stayed pretty selective because they were known for being warriors. And so one of the other giant girls was like, I just don't want to do all this damn fighting, this, that, and the third. So the giant that was a trainer to train them as warriors told her, quote, you are for one or two purposes, either to breed and bring other giants and warriors in this world, or to to be a warrior. So this is really interesting in this article that they are talking about selective breeding. Okay, it says, as anyone who does breeding, albeit on animal level, knows, it is far easier to start with an established type than to start from scratch. It will be most difficult to attempt such a selective process. If all you had to start with were a handful of unfortunate people owning the conditions of acromegaly and giantism. Thus, it was seen that these Adena folks already had among their race a very rare ancestral lineage and line descent. They had, in other words, people of pedigree. Studies have also indicated, as in the case of Adena, when a people settle down and have a good nutritional food supply, they grow larger and stronger. True. The band of people of great size forced its way into the Ohio Valley around 1000 BC, it seems. Yes, it seems that way. Shortly after, he adds this interesting note. Perhaps there was a small elite of round-headed giants dominating and ruling an existing long-headed Ohio Valley population. It is not difficult to share Mr. Silverberg's wisdom in the speculation of an elite group of very tall people, perhaps a ruling class, being the Adena. It might be reiterated as well that such a genetic trait could, in the light of practicality, be pre-Adena. How ancient were the Alajaywe? Did the practice of a funerary mound building stem from the post-war necessity of quick physical interment? Were the honored dead buried in tradition of warrior class in a non-cremation style? After the practice of mass mound graves following great battles, were the taller, perhaps more accomplished members of the Adena given special rank and privilege? Why did these giants show up with greater distance in the later Adena burials? How long would it have taken the Adena to build a new tradition from the Alajaywe stock? Okay, let me see. All right, I'm going to read this last paragraph, and then I'll do a quick check-in. Brother Sean, did you have something you want to put on it, or are you still doing your thing? Yes, Purple Pill, Jack and the Beanstalk. Yeah, once I went back and thought about that, it made a lot of sense that was truly describing the existence of giants and quote, humans. All right, a tradition of giants. In Silverberg's words, Heckewelder's reference to the Alajaywe as giants touched off a search for a race of giant mound builders in the Ohio Valley. Indeed, the pioneering white and their descendants enthusiastically performed their own examination of the uncounted mound tombs, leaving relatively few for archaeologists some years later. Stretching in large parts of Pennsylvania to Indiana, the sheer number of raised earthen and stone works boggled their imagination. Upon life's end, some Adena would be interred fight into the floor of their home, the whole covered with earth, making little clusters of mounds at intervals throughout the countryside, preserving the sites of their former hamlets. As it turns out, there were many extra large skeletons reported in the various records of townships and counties, all independent of one another. Whether Heckelwelder and others touched off this search may be irrelevant, because it was virtually irresistible for these early settlers to look inside these ancient earthworks located in their back 40, as it were. Being most of the Euro-Celtic descent, these pioneering types enjoy comparing the giant jawbones of the skulls they found with their own, says Dragu. One of the peculiar features present in at least one of the observed examples is the great width of bony chins formed by bilateral emises rarely found among the skulls of the much earlier shell heap people or among the later Hopewell people. I guess they got that out of Mounds for the Dead. From the Ironton Register, a small Ohio River town newspaper dated May 5th, 1892, we found this: where Proctorville now stands was one day part of a well-paved city, but I think the greater part of it now in the Ohio River. Only a few mounds there, one of which was near the C. Wilgus mansion and contained a skeleton of a very large person, all double teeth, and sound in a jawbone that would go over the jaw with the flesh on of a large man. The common burial ground was filled with skeletons at a depth of about 6 feet. Part of the pavement was a boulder stone and part was preserved brick. Then we found this account from the Historical Collection of Ohio, Volume 2. Two volumes, page 350 and 351 of Noble County, Ohio. In Seneca Township was opened. In 1872, one of the numerous Indian mounds that abound in the neighborhood. This particular one was locally known as the Bates Mound. Upon being dug into, it was found to contain a few broken pieces of earthenware, a lot of flint heads, and one or two stone implements of the remains of 3 skeletons, whose size would indicate they measured in life at least 8 feet in height. The remarkable feature of these remains was they had double teeth, in front as well as in the back of the mouth and in both upper and lower jaws. Upon exposure to the atmosphere, the skeletons crumbled back to Mother Earth. And finally, this takes a history of Ashtabula County, Ohio, 1872, in 2 separate entries. And cultivating the soil in the vicinity, implements have been found, and in excavating the grounds for graves, it is said that bones have been exhumed, which seem to have belonged to a race of giants. This land at one time belonged to Mr. Peleg Sweet, who was a man of large size and full features, and it is narrated that at one time he, in digging, came upon a skull and jaw, which were of such size that the skull would cover his head, and the jaw could be easily slipped over his face, as though the head of the giant was enveloping his. The second entry may be of some interest because it described non-mound burials, perhaps characterizing the typical trench burial of the Archaic period pre-Adena. The graves were distinguished by slight depression in the surface of the earth, disposed in straight rows with intervening spaces or valleys covered the entire area. The number of these graves has been estimated to be between 2 and 3,000. Aaron Wright, Esquire, in 1800, made a careful examination of these depressions and found them invariably to contain human bones blackened with time, which upon exposure to the air soon crumbled to dust. Some of these bones were of unusual size and evidently belonged to a race allied to giants. Skulls were taken from these mounds, the cavities of which were of significant capacity to emit the head of an ordinary man, and jawbone that might be fitted over the face with equal facility. The bones of the upper and lower extremities were of corresponding size. Certainly, there were more curiosity than hysteria among the earlier settlers, however, leading to the conclusion of there being less of a competitive spirit to prove the existence of the loss of a superior race. Beside, a fortunate number of mounds were left untouched, possibly because they seemed less interesting, but perhaps through wise foresight. The accounts all seem quite honest and matter of fact, some writers not bothering to report the exact length of the skeletal remains were, if possible, convinced perhaps that the giant race was a well-established aspect of prehistory for the region. The post-Revolutionary War people took it for granted that the larger stature was commonplace enough to take the bones in stride. Only a few scholarly measures were taken towards preservation of sites and contents reflecting such an attitude. Okay, wow. Ooh, let me pause a little bit. Brother Sean, are you still there? If not, I know you're doing your thing, and I'm going to keep going. All right, family, I had to get a swig of water. Damn. Consequently, and because of the rigorous standards of the later academics, the 19th century accounts and diaries have never been considered part of the professional criterion. In any event, the larger and more interestingly shaped mound structures were the first to be excavated, leaving the rest for the analysis of the professionals. In Muskingum County, Brush Creek Township, in a document dated March 3rd, 1880, a mound located on the farm of J.M. Broadman was measured 64 feet in width, 90 feet in length, and 11 feet 3 inches in height. It was flat on top, an unusual condition for a mound. The mound achieved its odd shape possibly because of the stone altar owning similar dimensions found within. The structure was located on a summit hill 152 feet above Brush Creek. In it were discovered the bones of men and women buried in couples. The length of their skeletons exceeded 8 and even 9 feet. Wait a minute, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly. The structure was located on the summit of a hill 152 feet above the Brush Creek. In it were discovered the bones of men and women buried in couples. The length of their skulls exceeded 8 and even 9 feet. Damn. The excavation was started in early December 1870. There was another dig included as well. This reflected an attitude towards the then existing archaeologists, whom these people apparently held in low regard. The above report contains nothing but facts briefly told. And knowing that the public has been humbugged and imposed upon by archaeologists, we wish to fortify our own statement by giving the following testimonial. At the bottom of the 3-page account, the signatures of 6 citizens was affixed in an affidavit verifying the truth, correctness, and non-deviation from the facts. It is quite possible that these people reported on something a bit rarer than ever expected. The mounded structures were possibly archaic Allegheny. If a tradition of giants existed among these ancient people, surely a firm genetic base in people of more than 7 feet in height would occasionally produce even taller members. Needless to say, it is for a reason as the describing difference between the property owners and the archaeologists that discoveries of the remains of giants being in North America are questionable to seated academics. Well, that don't surprise us. This may be especially true currently among those who have never engaged in a more thoughtful reading of the exponents of Adena analysis, especially the summations of Drago. The scientific community today has its own traditional, fraught with skepticism, academia disapproval, and outright dismissal of old Sideracies accounts. A part of the problem may be wrapped up in the political and policies of the anthropological and archaeological communities. Credibility is always a point of vital interest. Few who bear degrees, okay, this was A32 was talking about, all this fuck shit with they supposed degrees and experts. And furthermore, how the hell you gonna tell me something different when I go out in the backyard and goddamn dig something up? So you gonna dispute that? Get the hell out of here, because you got a degree and you up under that papal seal. So in order to make your coinage, you better stick to the script, whatever. So anyhow, credibility is always a point of vital interest. Few who bear degrees and use their letters as levers in their theories will step off the beaten path into an alternative area of research. Absolutely, they're not going to do it because they want to keep getting their coinage. All right. Nevertheless, gigantic stature among men and women has been known since the beginning of recorded history. The Bible's Genesis itself relating of giants. They're referred to as sons of gods and men of renown. This seemed to echo the words of Schoolcraft referring to Allegheny as a strong and mighty people, capable of great exertions and doing wonders. The Greeks have extensive mythological accounts of such people owning a grand stature as well. They were often held as a reclusive race, perhaps for self-preservation, whose lineage went back to a time of great antiquity, perhaps prior to the last ice age. So again, as far as the Greeks, that kind of lines up with out of the book, the cities, the giant cities of Bashan, when as he was over in Syria, Jordan, and all of those places, and finding yet again those giant structures, and he explained to us the building of the Greek civilization on top of them, and then the building of the Roman civilization. So that lines up pretty perfectly with the readings out of the giant cities of Bashan. And I also find it interesting that these particular findings that they're speaking of in this article are around the 1800s, because that's the same time that the Giant Cities of Bashan, the book was published in 65. So more than likely, he was traveling during the same time period that they were excavating over here in the Americas. So very, very interesting. All right. The odd thing about large men, however, is that in ancient times of warfare, they were the ones selected first and often the champions of kings. This practice of taking the big men first is believed to have systematically depleted the gene pool among the older European, Asian, and Middle Eastern stock, reducing the average height of modern man to something less than could have possibly have been. David slew Goliath, and it was part of a pattern. Could this have been the fate of the Alajiwi, big men in defense of their homeland against the Lenape, Menjwe? Heckelwelder indeed said that there was a tradition that there were giants among the Alajiwi. Tradition is consciously passed down from time to time, generation to generation. Is it coincidence that there were apparent tradition of giants among the Adena? If one were to conspire to weave the ancient Alajiwi indirectly, at least, the Lenni Lenape seem to be intimately involved, for it is from them that we have this story. Damn, all right, Lenape, I really want y'all to get with your ancestors to verify any myths, fables, or stories on giants inhabiting the Americas and the Lenape nation warring with them. Damn, y'all, this is deep. All right, weaving legend and science. Did the Adena simply wander into the Ohio Valley, or were they already here? Genetically, at least, in the form of a race with very dominant genetic traits. Did a severely compromised archaic Lenape interbreed with the remaining Allegheny inhabitants of the region, and in effect, continuing the strong characteristic bred of the former Allegheny race, giving rise to the Adena? Were some of the disintergiant humans representatives of actual Allegheny? It is tempting, in other words, to demonstrate a physiological matching between transmitted history and hard facts, creating a sort weave to hold them together, like the making of a belt of wampum. Such a weave may have a practical as well as ornamental purpose. To start, here are a few additional accounts of giant skeletons found in the 19th century, both in and out of the state of Ohio. The first refers to the general character of the human remains found in Logan County, Illinois. Okay, so supposedly Illinois was a part of Ohio, so it was one. It wasn't split up the way it is now from a territory perspective. So here we go. It is sometimes difficult to distinguish the place of sepulture raised by the mound builders from the more modern graves of the Indians. The tombs of the former were in general larger than those of the later, and were used as receptacles for a greater number of bodies and contained relics of art, evincing a higher degree of civilization than that attained by the Indians. The ancient earthworks of mound builders have occasionally been appropriated as burial places by the Indians, but the skeletons of the latter may be distinguished from the archaeological remains by the former by their greater stature. History of Logan County, Illinois, 1886. Similarly, the next one from Vermillion Township, Erie County, Ohio. There are quite a number of mounds in the township where the bones and sometimes the whole skeleton of the human race have been found. The bones and the skeletons found are very large, and some of the inhabitants think they must belong to a race of being much larger in size than the Indians found here by the first settlers. Firelands Pioneer, 1858. In 1829, when the hotel was built in Chesterville, a mound nearby was made to furnish the material for the brick. And digging it away, a large human skull was found, but no measurements were made. It is related to the jawbone was found to easily fit over that of a citizen of the village who was remarkable for his large jaw. The local physician examined the cranial and found it proportionally large, with more teeth than the white race of today. The skeleton was taken to Mansfield and has been lost out of sight entirely. Oh, really? History of Morrill County and Ohio, that's 1880. In digging the cellar of the house, 9 human skulls were found, and like such specimens from other ancient mounds of the country, they show that the mound builders were men of large stature. The skeletons were not found lying in such a manner as would indicate any arrangement of the bodies on the part of the entombers. In describing the tomb, Mr. Albert Harris said it looked as if the bodies had been dumped into a ditch. Some of them were buried deeper than others, the lower ones being about 7 feet below the surface. When the skeletons were found, Mr. Harris was 20 years of age, yet he states that he could put one of the skulls over his head and let it rest upon his shoulder, while wearing a fur cap at the same time. The large size of all the bones were remarked, and the teeth were described as double all the way around. The History of Medina County, 1881. On the Wapatamaca have been found numerous Indian relics, among which was highly a finished pipe representing a snake coiled around the bowl. There were also discovered the under jawbones of a human being of great size, which contained 8 jaw teeth in each side of enormous size, and what is more remarkably, the teeth stood transversely in the jawbone. It would pass over any man's face with entire ease. Historical Collection of Virginia, 1865. Damn, y'all. Damn. All right, I'm checked back in with your purple pill. Illinois equals Scion Illi. Interesting. So you just reverse the word, Scion Illi. Very, very interesting. All right. Here we go again. All right, bear with me, family. All right, there are many more such like accounts, and all will be published in a book with a similar title to this article. And in this particular article, they show like a drawing. Someone hand drew this. This is the now lost Brush Creek tablet. Was found among skeleton measuring over 8 and 9 feet in length in Brush Creek Township, Muskegon County, Ohio, in the early 1800s. All right, and of course the tablet is an ancient language. It doesn't look like it's cuneiform, but it's in that style. All right, so here we go. Could the ancient ancestors of the Lenape have taken over the lands of the Alajay, then intermarried with the former subjects of the Alajay hierarchy, producing the Adena, but with an added twist? That twist would ask whether some of the selected Alajay women were spared of the supposed genocide, becoming participants, willing or not, for the procreation of what was to become the tall members of the Adena. Were any alliances made in the course of the long war that allowed a taller Alajay male to live on? Were the Adena people themselves the result of a fusion of commingling of 2 or even 3 separate and distant cultures? Heckelwelder writes, the war that was carried on with this nation lasted many years, which the Lenape lost a great number of their warriors, while the Menjwe would always hang back in the rear, leaving them to face the enemy. The loss of the many men may very well have inhibited their ability to re-establish a new and thriving generation quickly. And so perhaps the surviving members of the Alajay, taking the Lenape as their new masters, share not only their lands but themselves as well. This might help to explain the strong physical type of those later Adena found preserved in mounds. If the Adena also developed a ceremonial system of selective breeding, even as the Alajayans were supposedly to have done, and this, the stronger, more dominant Alajay gene type may have survived the annihilation of the Alajay themselves, becoming the children of their conquerors. The romantic James A. Jones relates how on the eve of the first encounter with the Alajay, the strong love of a man and the Lene Lenape for a beautiful maiden of the Alajay was born. It was night. The bands of the Confederate nation were sleeping in their cabins, dreaming dreams of victory and glory, when Wenajawaha, or the hard heart sleeping in his tent, was aroused by the thread of a light foot on the earth at his side, and a voice sweeter than that of a linnet or the thrush. Looking up, he saw by the beams of the moon a tall and beautiful woman, straight as a hickory and graceful as a young antelope. She wore over her head a cloak made of tender bark of mulberry, interlaced with white feathers and of the swan, and the gay plumage of the snake bird and the painted vulture. Wanjawaha startled from his sleep, for he knew for her to be the beautiful maiden whom he had seen in his dreams. He quitted the lands of his father, the bones, the shape, the tall, erect, the eye, black and sparkling, the foot, the small and the swift, the white teeth and white even, The glossy dark hair and the small plump hand. All right, whatever. The warrior who refers Joan could have been changed at the sight of the tall beauty, listening to her story how she was being made to marry one she could never love. When Jewaha, after consoling the young woman, bade her to spend the remainder of the night with his sister who was nearby. But the passion of love arose in the warrior's heart, and he determined that if the Great Spirit should give him victory in the approaching contest, the beautiful maiden should become his wife. Thus is related the story of the Lenape, co-meaning romantically with the Lenape Cusack, carries out this understanding of the mixing of giants with folk of lesser stature, only reversing the sexes. He relates to the story of a giant abducting the daughter of a noble chieftain. Her brothers search for her and are taken unaware when they find she has fallen in love with the giant, becoming uninterested in returning to her family. Interestingly, there is a biblical reference to such a relationship between giants and people of smaller physical type. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of the gods saw the daughter of men, that they were fair, and that they took them wives of which they choose. Genesis 6, 1-2. The possibility of the Alajeway having passed on their tradition of giants may not be far-fetched at all, especially in the understanding that the Lenape folk, in crossing over the Mississippi, likely did so with their women and children, not suspecting an attack. In the course of the Great War, would it not have been feasible that the Alajeway, as likewise the Lenape, took to themselves at any given opportunity the desirable women folk of their adversaries? Hence would come an explanation for the selective, taller members of the Adena, especially among the later Adena, when enough time has passed to refine the mating ritual of the elite stock. For these children, after all, would have been in the direct lineage of they that had so bravely risked their lives in the defeat of the Allegheny warriors. All right, hold on a second, family. Let me get some water to get my little throat together. Wow, shout out sis Cheryl, because now we're on the North America side with the giants. It's really, really, really interesting. Damn, is all I can say. All right, Adena, Fate, Hopewell, Destiny, Heckelwelder writes, in the end, the conquerors divided the country between themselves. The Menjwe were choice of the lands in the vicinities of the Great Lakes, and on their tributary streams, and the Lenape took possession of the country to the south. So the Menjwe, later Iroquois, took the lands north, and as we may assume for the account, the Lenape took for their own the Ohio Valley with all its tributaries and streams. In this, might we not assume the new masters of the Ohio Valley inherited not only possessions of the Alajeway, but their lore of the region's natural resources as well? Being prompted and educated by extinct inhabitants, would they not have quickly developed the supposedly unique arts and crafts of the Adena? Unfortunately, we cannot discern a possible Alajeway trinkets from one of Adena. For if the ancient post-war scenario resembled anything like what the white settlers enacted, that would explain less evidence for perceivable Alajeway legacy. Heckwelder also notes that many of the Lenape people stayed back on the western shores of the Natsami Suppu, being frightened by the fierce reception of the Alajeway. This might explain the presence of only the stronger and more necessarily hierarchical Mexican tradition being applied at the onset of the Adena culture. If they came along at all, that combined with the possibility of a diminishing number of men and the probable non-admittance of the northern Menjaway in the new local politics, could have manifested itself into the difficult to explain origins of the Adena with their skeletal type. But then as the piece extends itself and more of the formally defiant Lenape cultural messengers arrived and took root in the regions from west of the Mississippi, the effect could have been more of the missing Mexican traits appearing in the later tombs. At the same time as the old Lenape tradition asserted itself more and more, the stronger diagnostic trait of the early Adena, rich in the possible spoils of the Great War, would have excited, leaving evolved and improved versions to be associated with the emerging Hopewell. But what became of the Adena? Were they indeed forced out by the Hopewell? Let me see. In this, Heckwelders recount this interesting bit of information. For a long period of time, some say hundreds of years, the two nations resided peacefully in this county and increased very fast. Some of their most enterprising huntsmen and warriors crossed the great swamps and falling on streams running to the eastward, followed them down to the Great Bay River, thus in the bay itself, which we call Chesapeake. As they pursued their travels, partly by land and partly by water, sometimes near and at other times on the great saltwater lake, as they call the sea, they discovered great river, which we call the Delaware, and thence exploring still eastward the Shakaba, I don't know what that is, or Shakaba County, now named New Jersey. Oh, shit. So that was New Jersey's original name. Scheyekeba. Very interesting. They arrived at another great stream, that which we call Hudson or North River. The great swamps are said to be old wetlands along the west base of the Appalachians. The account then returns some of these men after their long absences to the main body of people, and they tell of natural resources, of the gifts that lay to the east. Heckwelder continues. Satisfied with what they had seen, they, or some of them, after a long absence, returned to their nation and reported the discovery they had made. They described the country they had discovered as abounding in game and various kinds of fruits, and the rivers and bays with fish, tortoises, etc. And together with abundance of waterfowl and no enemy to be dreaded. They considered the event as a fortunate one for them and concluded to this to be the country destined for them by the Great Spirit. They began to immigrate thither, yet in small bodies, so as not to be straitened for want or provision by the way, some even laying by for a whole year. At last they settled on the four great rivers, which we call Delaware, Hudson, Susquehanna, and Potomac, making the Delaware the center of their possessions. Our best Adena scholars have studiously submitted that the Adena, having lived in the Ohio Valley for a number of centuries, showed evidence of outlying settlements by the appearance of their known traits in places to the east, says Drago. Ritchie's extensive archaeological studies in the northeast indicate Adena's influence also spread into that region, although some Adena traits may have filtered into New York State from the upper Ohio Valley earlier in Adena. The majority of the traits appear similar to those of the late Maryland and Delaware Adena sites. The distribution of Adena materials along the East Coast and the Northeast also indicate that there may have been a migration route from Chesapeake Bay to Delaware Bay, then northward via the Delaware River into New Jersey and beyond. Some Adena peoples also may have moved from the Chesapeake Bay area up to the Susquehanna River into New York. He then adds that in his and his colleagues' opinion, it is more than coincidental that the extension of these ancient folks occurred about the same time in the middle Adena period. He goes on to say that the presence of the artifacts in these outlying areas He goes on to say that the presence of the artifacts in these outlying areas cannot be considered the result of the wandering of traders in search of new market or raw materials. He then asks the questions of why groups of Adena people will find it necessary to leave their homeland in the Ohio Valley. Was the later Hopewell, after the loss of the Adena type, to migrate dominantly composed of the northern Menjwe ancestral stock? In the words of Drago in his summation of Webb and Snow, the traits shared by Adena and Hopewell were those already present in the late Adena and donated by Adena to the new Hopewell culture, which formed after the contact of Adena people with long-haired populations which had lived in the north area of Adena occupation. Since Heckewelder's accounts preceded even the broader knowledge of the Ohio Valley mounds, we may have a series of clues to begin to help answer our better investigation investigation questions concerning these mysteries of the Adena. The time of the supposed entry in the Ohio Valley, followed by a few centuries of settlement, Middle Adena, and the subsequent movement eastward, virtually identical to Heckewelder's description, may be valuable consideration in now century-long inquiries embodying the mysteries of the Adena. A possible movement southward by the Menjwe only reinforces the understanding that the Adena, having recognized themselves as physically and ancestral different from the Menjwe, chose to move on eastward, maintaining their stock for a while. So Wow. All right, family. So this article is called Giants and Ancient North American Warfare. The site is biblical. I'm just going to read it out because I don't think it's a word. They strung a couple words together. It's BibliCapitales.net. So very, 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 very good information. Thank you, Sis Cheryl. Shout out to you. All right, and as y'all can hear, I'm Lou's sister.
I'm back, sis.
Okay, yeah, Brother Sean, put something on it because I got to hydrate. Go ahead.
Yeah. I actually didn't get to hear all the article, but I can say that I've been going through a little bit of fuckery right now, but it's associated with the job. I'm a maintenance man. I'm on call this week, so that's why.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
Yeah,
Okay, no worries.
Yeah,
I'm going to article in your box because basically, brother, they're saying that those mounds were graveyards. And
of course. That's why they won't let us near them.
Exactly. And they've uncovered back in the 1800s now, the same little time frame as Blood that wrote the book Giant Cities of Bashan. Same time frame, except he published his book in 1865. In this article, you're going to see dates like 1880, 1890, and into the 1900s, that as the terraforming was happening over here in the Americas, they were excavating these giants. And what was interesting to me in the article, not only just the size, because we pretty much know that, and it's basically the fact that a lot of the skulls, these giant skulls, were found with two sets of row of teeth. So that's, again, these are different species, totally different species that was inhabited the planet at the time. And then the other thing that you're going to see in the article that blows me back is the fact that in the different counties in Ohio, and you're going to definitely be familiar with a lot of those counties and stuff, it was documented at the county level, these particular artifacts of these giants.
Indeed.
People
just don't look.
Yeah, I was blown away. Okay, we're going into overtime, Purple Pill. So if you're not able to join us, I want to thank you so much. Peace and love. And then I'm just seeing I Am the Universe. You was in the chat early. Peace and love to you. So thank you to both. And Purple Pill, thank you as always of dropping a lot of gems into the chat. It's truly appreciated. Yeah, so yeah, that kind of like, I'm like, get the hell out of here. And then Mansfield, they have an account where they had one of the motherfucking skulls, and then all of a sudden now they can't find it. So in other words, they had it and was saving it, and now all of a sudden it then came up, disappeared.
It's been said that Mansfield Correctional Facility is built over an ancient burial ground.
Damn.
You know, they put prisons and military bases over important shit.
Yes. Yes. And it's interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
For the family that still want to push paperwork, this is your opportunity to push some. Push a drip. It says we have the right to our ancient burial grounds, to our ancestors' remains, and things of that nature. If you want to push some paperwork and fight for something, fight for the right to that.
Right.
Then we'll have some real DNA to compare stuff to instead of all this shit that they're giving us from Africa. The reason they don't want to dig up no remains here. They don't want you to be able to tie yourself back to here.
Exactly. Because that article was clearly stating that in those mounds there was like a massive grave thing. So you had like regular, quote, regular sized people as well as the giants. But interestingly enough, I didn't read in the article where giants were buried with regular sized people. So clearly this was two distinct sets of folks and DNA, and what really struck me was when they were saying that on some of those mounds were large trees. And I'll never forget, I was looking at a documentary on PBS on the mounds of Ohio, and I just broke out in tears because it hit me like these stinking motherfuckers literally terraformed this state with plowing through these mounds to build this motherfucking shit that's here today. I mean, literally, I can walk out my front door, and at the end of my block, the name of the street is Mound Street. So all throughout Ohio state, you're going to see different streets called mounds. So they're given homage, quote, quote, to the mounds that they had to plow through to build the shit that they have now. But anyway, back to this PBS documentary, they literally were showing where folks were digging through, excavating with this big ass equipment through the mound, and what was left standing was the big ass tree that sat on top of the mound, and how they had to use heavy equipment to take down that tree. So my mind is just totally blown. I never would have put the giants connected with those mounds. And I do have to say that those that are claiming the title as Indian, as Native Americans, they have been pretty adamant. And Brother Sean, let me know if I'm lying and stepping out of line. They have been adamant that they were not the mound builders. They have been adamant. They said it was before. That's right. They said it was here before they got here. So this shit just totally blows me away. That it was warring on, not that it was warring on this side, because we know that it was warring on this side, but that the fact that warring on this side also happened with that giant race. So the same thing that was happening. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You have to also think about the fact that they don't want us to find the remains of dragons either.
True.
Because it said that the Sioux were dragon trainers.
That's a good point.
So that means there was dragons around more recent than what we had been told.
Yep.
And there's all types of, there were giants here as well as giants abroad. Some of the giants or titans were friendly and actually got along with the normal sized people. And then
right.
you had the ones that ran with the other crew. You had
right,
your good and
with
bad
the fuck
them.
shit. Right. Wow. And
So they just buried them all together when we was at war with them.
right.
Whoever they killed, they just buried them all together.
Exactly. And I was watching one of the Star Wars. I think it was the one. Oh shit! The one with the one chick. The one before the new series that they did now, and I wasn't really even watching it. I was flicking through to get something else, and so happened to see it. And the main character, the woman, is standing before a giant that's laid down on the ground that's turned into stone because the giant had been laying there for so long, or the titan per se. And the way they so slickly motherfucking put the shit in there, that wasn't the main focus of that clip. She was standing there looking out at the mountain view, but literally right in front of her was this titan laying in the ground, and he looked like he had like a war helmet on his head. And I said, get the hell out of here. They put the shit right in our face, as they usually do. Just one little quick frame in Star Wars. All right, so I have one more article I'm going to share, family. So tonight we took a break from Africa, European side, and we on the America side with the Giants. And all I got to say is, well, damn. So Sis Cheryl was dropping me a bunch of information throughout the show. I'm going to go through it. It's been on point, but this next article is called Giants in Ohio, The Hidden History of the Human Race. This is off of overmanwarrior.blog. All right. So this article came out in 2010. All right, here we go. I found a unique treasure at the 2009 Monmouth Festival at Point Pleasant in West Virginia. I'm going to tell y'all something. I told y'all this before, and now this shit is making so much sense because New York, New Jersey, and then I've recently had the opportunity to spend a little time, the day trip in West Virginia. And when you travel by car to areas and you see how they've terraformed and cut through those mountains to build those roads, it's just something about it. It does something to you. And I just kept saying to myself, it's a lot of shit here. A lot of ancient information that is being hidden in these areas. So I'm really just blown back this evening to get this information coming through about Ohio, New York, Delaware, Jersey. Very, very interesting. So here we go. I found a unique treasure at the 2009 Mammoth Festival at Point Pleasant in West Virginia while on a trip with my wife. It's a map of a paranormal activity in the state of Ohio called Hidden Ohio. Before I go on, West Virginia, as we know, is like the coal capital, COAL, of the U.S., and a lot of energy is harvested from West Virginia. So I want to just throw that out there as well. Anyway, it's a map of a paranormal activity in the state of Ohio called Hidden Ohio. It features ancient American sites, haunted locations, sacred geography, scenic byways, strange creatures, unexplained mysteries, and unique sites. It was on this map that I noted 2 sites. Ooh, here we go. Here we go, Brother Sean, in your backyard. It was on this map that I noticed 2 sites where giant humans were being discovered. One location was just outside of Cleveland, and the other one was just south of Cincinnati. The below picture I don't believe is real, but it gives you an idea. I am currently looking for the private citizens that have these discovered bones. In both cases, the bones of the giant humans were 8 to 10 feet tall. Prior to seeing those excavation sites on that map, I had never heard of giant humans in an actual historical sense. Below is the history of the giant bones discovered in North America. Some of the bones are without question stuck in drawers at museums. You better believe it, brother, dirty motherfuckers. But most are in the hands of private collectors. I would love to see them for myself. All right, here we go. Historical North American giants. Ooh, child, let me take a swig. I done drank my whole damn water bottle up, y'all. 1792, New York, Buffalo. Turner's History of the Holland Purchase report that 7 and 8 foot skeletons were found at the Earthen Foot in Orleans County with broad, flat-topped skulls. 1800 Ohio Cognac. Among the normal-sized skeletons found in the remains of the mounds, okay, so this is the first one with commingle. Remains of the mound were found giant bones. Some of the skulls and jaws were large enough to fit over the head and face of a normal man. Okay, and that's consistent as far as when they found these skulls in the 1800s, that they could literally take the skull and fit it over their head. So that's consistent. 1821, Tennessee, White County. An ancient fortification contained skeletons of gigantic statures averaging at least 7 feet in length. 1825, Ohio Valley. David Cusack, a Tuscatoria by birth, wrote that among the legends of the ancient people of the stock, there was a powerful tribe. Okay, and we just read this. That's the giant tribe, Ranojetawonka. They were giants and had a considerable habitation. When the giant spirit made the people, some of them became giants. After a time, and having endured the outrage of these giants, it is said that the people banded together and through the final force of about 800 warriors, successfully annihilated the abhorrent Ronin Jatamwaka. Okay, so that particular race of giants. After that, it was said that there were no giants anywhere. This was supposedly to have happened around 2,500 winters before Columbus discovered America around 10,000 BC. Okay, that's what we just read in another article. 1829, Ohio, Chesterfield, in digging away a mound where a hotel, okay, we read this one too in the other article, and digging away a mound where a hotel was to be built, a large human skeleton was found, but no measurements were made. It is related that the jawbone was found to easily fit over the head of the citizen of that village. The local physician examined the cranial and found it proportionately large with more teeth than the white race of today. The skeleton was taken to Mansfield and has been lost sight of entirely. So, Brother Sean, that's the one that Mansfield motherfucking stinking ass mysteriously lost. All right, 1833, California, Lompoc Rancho. Soldiers digging giant Lompoc Rancho, California, discovered a male skeleton 12 feet tall. Carved shells, stone axes, and other artifacts surrounding the skeleton. The skeleton had double row of upper and lower teeth. Unfortunately, this body was secretly buried when local Indians became upset about the remains. 1835, Illinois, Lake County, in the numerous mounds in the county, skeletons ranging between 7 and 8 feet are discovered. 1845, Virginia, a human jawbone of great size was uncovered in a burial mound on which teeth stood transversely in the jawbone. 1849, New York, from illustrations of the ancient monuments of western New York, comes the report that an elliptical mound above near Conewango Valley held 8 big skeletons. A thigh bone was found to be 28 inches long. Exquisite stone point, enamel work, and jewelry were found. Also discovered in the area were a number of other large skeletons, almost 9 feet in height. 1850, New York, from the history of Allegheny County in 1879, a report that very large human bones were uncovered during the excavation for the railroad. 1851, New York, a skull, rib bone, and shin bone were found that indicated the height to be over 8 feet tall. 1856, West Virginia, Wheeling, a human skeleton was discovered by laborers while plowing a vineyard, measuring almost 11 feet tall. 1858, Ohio, Vermilion Township, skeleton of races of beings much larger than the local inhabitants were discovered. And this one I think we read before. 1870, Ohio, in Brush Creek Township, a large contained skeletal remains of several humans up to 9 feet tall. A large stone tablet with unknown inscriptions similar to Greek writings was also found. So when I looked at it, that tablet and the other article, like I said, to me, it looked like a derivative of cuneiform. Okay, so I know he's probably saying Greek because he's not familiar with cuneiform. Okay, so to me, that looked cuneiformish, although it wasn't cuneiform, but I know damn sure it was earlier than some Greek. All right, 1872, Ohio, Seneca Township. I think we before when the base mound was opened, the remains of 3 skeletons whose size would indicate they measured in life at least 8 feet in height were found. A remarkable feature of these remains was they had double teeth in front as well in the back of the mouth in both the upper and lower jaws. 1873, Ohio Seville and Ohio Bicentennial Commission historical markers served as the reminders that the Giants of Seville, Captain Martin Van Buren Bates and his wife Anna Swan Bates, lived in the village of Seville in Medina County. Anna stood 7 feet 11 and a half inches tall and weighed 413 pounds. Martin was 7 feet 9 inches tall and weighed 480 pounds. Well, damn, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. 1873, Washington, D.C. The objects here collected which not have been given or acquired by exchange have been purchased for the use of the museum by the order of the Surgeon General. There is a skeleton of a giant who in life measures 7 feet, prepared by Hazouk and mounted by Blanche method, which, if I may use that term, is really a beauty. It is as white and clean as new fallen snow, and the brass joints and screws which keep it together are bright and the latest style and finish. From the article, The Army Medical Museum in Washington by Louis Bagger, Appleton's Journey, a magazine of general literature, volume 9, issue 206. 1875, West Virginia, Riceville. Workmen constructing a bridge near the mouth of Paw Paw Creek uncovered 3 giant skeletons with strands of reddish hair clinging to the skulls. Hell to the no. The skeletons had supported people approximately 8 feet tall. Now that's interesting that giant had red hair. Interesting.
Now, they talked about.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
They had talked about the fact that it was a tribe of giant red-haired giants that was over here eating people that we had to get.
Oh, that's right. Damn. That's right. 1876, Wisconsin. Mounds were excavated containing a giant skull and vertebrae. 1877, Missouri, Kansas City. A giant skull was unearthed when mounds were open and giant man tracks belonging to a human 25 to 30 feet tall, were discovered. Damn, that's a titan. 1877, Nevada, Eureka. Prospectors found a human leg bone and kneecap sticking out of solid rock. Doctors examined the remains and determined they were from a human being and one that stood over 12 feet tall. The rock in which the bones were found was dated geologically to the Jurassic period over 185 million years ago. 1878, Ohio, Ashtabula County, while excavating the grounds for graves, bones were exhumed which seemed to have belonged to a race of giants. A skull and jaw were found, which were the size of the skull that would fit easily over the large man's head and a loose-fitting helmet, even the jaw in place. The number of these graves has been estimated to be between 2,000 and 3,000. Yeah, I think we read that in the other article. 1879, Indiana, Brewersville, a skeleton almost 10 feet tall was excavated from a mound. 1880, Ohio, Zanesville, a skeleton was reported to have been enormous dimensions found in a clay coffin with a sandstone slab containing hieroglyphics. Now, isn't that interesting? You trying to sit up here and tell me that they found hieroglyphics all the way in Ohio, when every time the shitty history that they're giving the populace is that they're only tying the hieroglyphics back to Africa, although we know here in the Americas there were hieroglyphics. I'm thinking specifically out west, like in the Grand Canyon area. But now what they sitting up here telling me is that they found it in Ohio. Okay, then. Just like they found the cuneiform-ish style writing. Okay, then. 1880, Minnesota, Clearwater. Several giant skeletons were found with double rows of teeth. 1881, Ohio, Medina County. A jawbone of great size belonging to a human being was discovered, which contained 8 jaw teeth in each side of enormous size, and the teeth stood transversely in the jawbone. It would pass over any man's face with entire ease. Okay, so that was, we read that about that article is that other article. So again, family, this is another article called overmanwarrior.blog. I'm gonna post both of those articles. I'll put them on the Truth Uncompromised website as well. So my voice is pretty much done, family. So we're gonna end a little early. Next week we're gonna pick up. I do want to go through the other remaining information that Sis Cheryl sent to me for the family regarding the giants in the Americas. We'll finish that up next week, and then of course get back on the giant cities of Bashan. So before we start to close out, Brother Sean, you have any last words for the family?
Yeah. So, Cheryl, you coming on next week. You providing the information. You can read the article.
Yeah, she said she's not comfortable, though. She said she's not comfortable. You know, I've been trying to get her on. But
well, I mean, it's basically pertaining to certain topics, but she on top of this. She can read the article.
Yeah, she's definitely is. She definitely is, because when I saw it in my inbox, I'm like, oh, well, let me get this article a quick read. So this was my first time taking a pass through it, because I thought we were just going to read article for about 5 minutes and jump back on the other giant cities of Bashan, talking about Africa and the Middle East area. But shit, we definitely needed that to be told. So shout out to you, Sis Cheryl. Thank you so much for providing. Yeah, love you very, very much for providing that information. So I hope, family, that you are starting to get a better picture of a lot of the events that have gone on Mother Earth. And it's certainly not the information that has been given to us today. And as we see, you know, we cannot look at things from just a quote, quote, human race perspective, quote, quote, melanated, non-melanated perspective. We have to take it into its entirety and look at the shit from a species perspective. which would make a lot more sense of the constant warring and one species trying to wipe out the other species to continue on. So it's very, very extremely interesting. And if it wasn't interesting and if it wasn't important and of value, why the fuck are they hiding it? Why are they hiding the fact that as they were building up these Roman cities and shit that we know today, terraforming the land, different sets of species across the planet? Seems like to me, folks are once again hiding identity, hiding who is whom to keep the fuckery going. So very, very extremely interesting information. I hope that you all got something out of tonight, and I do appreciate your support with us on this journey. We will definitely be back next week. We're going to pick up with the giants in the Americas, and we'll jump back on the giant cities of Bashan. So, Brother Sean, thank you so much. Love you very much.
I won't have no interruptions next week.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all good. I enter and overstand. You got to do what you got to do. So that's good. So, yeah, when you get a moment, look at that Ohio article. You're going to be like, oh, hell to the no. And Sis Sandra, we missed you this week, so you're going to have to get caught up on this show. You're going to be like, oh, hell no. And Sis Cheryl, thank you again for the information. Love you much. And family, we love you. We will be back next week. I'm going to rock out with Erica Badu. I have to agree with her. Don't name no motherfucking buildings after me. So with that, peace and love, family. Love you much.
Oh, Mr.